All right, thanks to those of you that were able to attend and to those watching after the fact. This is another Member Connect where FIA tries to bring our members together um, to create opportunities to the mutual benefit. Today we have Upside. Upside's been a good member of FIA for the last handful of years, and we're proud to have them back to do another Member Connect. Doing the presentation today is Simon Palmer. He's the Strategic Account Executive for Upside. Upside is a digital marketplace that connects millions of consumers with grocers nationwide. Since 2016, Upside's personalized offers have empowered individuals to gain greater purchasing power for their needs and help businesses achieve measurable profits. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Simon for your presentation. And thanks again for all of you for attending today.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone, and I appreciate everyone's time. I know everyone is very, very busy. As mentioned, I lead commercial partnerships here at Upside. I've been at Upside for 3 years. Prior to that, I spent my career building marketplaces that connect consumers with retailers and also goods. Um, Today, I really want to talk about a lot of the changes that are affecting retailers based on consumer sentiment and a couple of other things, and then go from there and talk about how Upside is helping to give retailers that edge back to address these changes. So let's jump into it. The through line of the conversation today is going to be the uncommitted customer. Uh, we all probably know these customers, especially if we're in retail, or we might even actually be an uncommitted customer ourselves. These customers are prioritizing their own needs over loyalty to a particular brand or retailer. Sound familiar? So, um, trend number one, consumer sentiment is impacting customer behavior or consumer behavior. What that means is that how consumers feel about the economy directly impacts their purchasing habits. And at the moment, consumers aren't feeling great about the economy. Specifically, inflation. Inflation is being a big headwind for consumers. They're looking to increase and stretch their dollar further. In particular, this is the result of what happened during the pandemic. They're seeing the fallout from this. They got a lot of money into their household income, and then through various programs, and that's slowly gone away as we've recovered from the pandemic, and now they have to come and figure out how to bridge that gap. I think a couple of interesting stats related to this, first of all, and this comes from so we have an economist on staff, and we also get to see billions of transactions from our retail partners, and we do surveys to our reach of 35 million consumers, which we'll talk about at some point later on. Um, but 89%, this is my favorite stat, 89% say that they are using or relying on promotions and discounts and coupons as much, if not more, this year than they were last year. Trend two, cross-shopping in the uncommitted customer. Look, it's real simple. Price sensitivity is driving this cross-shopping. How they feel about the economy, and when they're bearish as they are right now, they are looking to do what is best for them. So this is some of our data. And what we did is we went out and we asked the question, which of the following types of retailers have you shopped at groceries for in the last 12 months? A couple of things here to point out. First of all, if you add up all these numbers, it doesn't add up to 100%. It actually adds up closer to 300%. What that means is that just in their responses alone, they're saying that they're shopping at least at 3 retailers for groceries on any given basis. Then I also want to point out also dollar stores. That's the third highest behind big box and national grocery stores. So in this case, like we see the headlines with Dollar General all the time. We hear it. They're encroaching into this grocery space. They're putting freezers in, they're putting coolers in so they can carry more fresh. So that's what is happening in the sentiment for the consumers is manifesting itself in their purchasing decisions where they're shopping very specifically. Of course, wholesale club that continues to grow. Online grocery continues to grow. I was at FMI a couple of weeks ago, and their head economist and also one of the chief researchers at Nielsen stood up on stage, and something interesting that they shared was that if you look at last year's total grocery sales versus this year's and what they expect for next year, it's adjusted for inflation, all the same. What that means is retailers are having to fight for that same share of spend. Trend three, loyalty membership is different from loyalty behavior. Um, as a little anecdote, and we'll jump into some stats. One of my favorite questions when I speak to in conversation with a grocery executive is I always ask, I say, look, you work for this grocery store. You must be fairly loyal to your store. And of course, the answer, rightfully so, is always yes. And when I push on it, I always say, like I follow up that question with, yeah, so if I were magically to get access to your credit card statement and I were to look back 6 months, 3 months, the last week, I wouldn't find an instance of you actually going to a competitor that might be just a little bit closer on your way home from work. It's been a long day where you've bought a SKU that you could have bought at your own store. And the answer is almost astoundingly, well, sometimes. Well, consumers are the same way. Again, loyalty does not necessarily mean having a loyalty program does not necessarily mean that it's going to drive a totally loyal consumer. Um, we've done a whole lot of surveying around this, and we'll share some of these stats. But when it comes down to it, from our surveys, and again, this is across thousands and thousands of people, on average, the consumer is a member of 18 different loyalty programs. Of those, they're only active in about half, so about 9 of those. Interesting and specific to grocery, they shop across 4 to 5 different grocery banners, and they're active in about 2 to 3 grocery loyalty programs. So something to think about. Of those, only 20% or 22% of grocery loyalty customers are actually super users. These are the ones that are really those primary customers, the one that the loyalty program is truly reaching, and they're shopping about 4 to 8 times per month on average. That other 78% of consumers, they fall into these buckets of secondary and tertiary customers. They're the ones that the retailers really need to focus on. That's how you win in this space. So, income's upside. What is upside? Maybe some people here are users, maybe not. I'm going to give a quick little overview. We are a retailer first marketplace. We connect 35 million consumers with about 100,000 users. And these are users that are making everyday purchasing decisions on upside, fuel, grocery, convenience, sometimes restaurant. We also we use personalized promotions to shift consumer behavior. We push these out through our own app, which I'll walk through that experience in a second. But we also are connected into through APIs a bunch of partner apps. This ranges from Uber, DoorDash driver apps, neobanks like Chime, also more traditional banks like PNC. This continues to grow. Unique to upside and important to understand is that when I say we are a retailer first marketplace, it's for a couple of reasons. First of all, um, at the core of what we do is incrementality, the notion of incrementality. So there's like a lot of other platforms out there, and at the very end of kind of their whole spiel, they say, oh yeah, like we also look at incrementality. So what our incremental impact is for us, like everything is centralized around our ability to measure incrementality. There's no fees, there's no charges unless we're driving an incremental impact to our partner's business. Also, and this starts back to fuel, we started in fuel. If you think about that typical commercial intersection, there's 2 to 3 fuel stations at that intersection. And if we were to have all of those fuel stations on the platform, we would just be sending consumers from one fuel station to the other. Well, unique to Upside, not every retailer can actually participate. When a retailer comes on to Upside, they actually get their own little bit of territory. And therefore, they're able to collapse that demand away from their competitors that aren't on upside. And our whole focus is on how we actually drive that secondary and tertiary consumer into our partners, our retail partners' stores. So again, this is kind of a visualization of that. If you think about where your grocery stores might be and how close your competitors are, when you come on, you have the ability to own your own real estate and block your competitors. The impact of this is quite astounding. These stats are for our grocery partners across the board. We see that we drive 2.2x increase in monthly visits for the consumers that are on our platform going to our grocers compared to what they would normally be. Also, specific to loyalty, we are complementary to loyalty. We'll chat a little bit more about that in a second, but we see 2 to 3 times more likelihood to join that retailer's loyalty program. We want to support our partners, our retail partners' loyalty programs. And we also find that when you have a consumer that is both on our platform and a partner's loyalty program, they become about 48% more valuable. So how does it actually work? First of all, when a user, a consumer, opens up the Upside app, they have a map and they are geolocated. So again, this is all about connecting with that consumer and influencing that consumer's behavior when they are making real-time purchasing decisions. They get to see all the retailers on the platform near them, grocery, fuel. We're extremely successful in fuel, it's worth mentioning. So therefore, we're able to, and grocery is a little bit of a newer vertical for us in the last couple of years. We're able to send those people making their fuel purchasing decisions over to our grocery partners. But anyhow, they open up their app, they're geolocated, they see personalized cashback promotions that are located near them. This is all in real time. This is constantly being calculated. There's about 26 variables that go into the algorithm that define these personalized cashback promotions. Once a user claims that promotion, unique to us, they only have 4 hours to actually go and act on that promotion. So again, trying to drive real-time impact. This is not a card-linked offer where at the beginning of the month you go through and claim 40, 50 different offers, and then passively, if you happen to get lucky and shop there 30 days from now, you get some cash back. This is all about driving that action. Once they go to the store, they shop just as they would. And then at the end, they get to select how they would like to pay. They can pay with their credit card, for example, or if they so choose, they can also pay with the Upside app. It works very similar to Dunkin' or Starbucks payment experience where you hold up a barcode and scan it at the store. So what's the actual impact look like? I think that's the most important point. Schnucks is a very good partner with us. They've been on the platform for about 2 years, so we're able to see their data over some time. For Schnucks, we are driving 5% of their sales across their 120 stores. Notable to them, they are the #1 market share player in the St. Louis area. Also, of that 5%, about half of it is truly incremental. That is where, that is where we share profit. That's the only way we make money. Otherwise, if we drive a customer and they produce a transaction that is not incremental, there is no cost to our retail partner. To put that in perspective, we are driving about 2 stores worth of sales for Schnucks, incremental sales for Schnucks, without any CapEx or OpEx. If you look at our impact across the board for the customers, we're a 60% increase in the frequency of their secondary and tertiary customers. Also, for their loyalty, which we'll chat more about in a second, we're actually moving at a pretty solid click. Customers that come into the store, shop with them, we're not on their loyalty program, onto their loyalty program on a rate about 20 to 30%. And then finally, we measure ROI in a very specific way so that it's profit-based. But we're driving 45% ROI for this program for them, meaning that for every dollar they invest with Upside, they are seeing $1.45 in profit as a return. So to kind of circle everything out or back and talk about loyalty, Schnucks has a very robust loyalty program. So if you look at all the Upside users that come into their stores, about 22% that walk in their doors that Upside drives are not loyalty members. Of those 22%, again, we're converting them at a rate about 20 to 30% over, and we're happy to do this. If you look at the trip frequency for the impact of that 78% that were already shopping at Schnucks, they're coming in 24% more often. Their average basket size is increasing by 5%, and their monthly spend is increasing by 31%. It's truly a scenario of where 1 + 1 = 3. That is what I have. I wanted to open it up to questions.
So, hi, Joe Fantozzi here, Allegiance Retail. So a couple
Yep.
questions. So do you have some sort of measurement on how many users there are in a geo-targeted area? If we wanted to carve out zones where our stores are located, could you at least measure for us how many users there are so then we can extrapolate what the opportunity looks like?
Yeah, I want to go back to a slide. That is such a good question. Look, one of the key drivers of the success of any marketing program is its reach. And we absolutely can run all that reporting. We can go down to the zip code level, believe it or not. We generally look at a DMA because we have data that shows that consumers will drive 1 to 2 miles if we give them a promotion specific to grocery. There's two notions here though, right? There's like what we have now and there's what we have in the future. I don't want to sound like I'm giving you a timeshare pitch, but if you look back at Schnucks when we launched in October of 2021, there was a time where when we finally got them on average to drive, when we finally hit the milestone of about 2 to 3 transactions per day per store for Schnucks, we were celebrating because at the time we only had a handful of gas stations in that market. Over time, we built that inventory and we eventually reached, on average, 20 transactions per store per day. And now, fast forward a couple of years, there are some stores where we're driving 100 to 150 transactions per day. So all that to say that yes, to answer your question directly, we can absolutely go and we can look at how many users we have. But because there is this notion of exclusivity, there is the idea that you get to raise your hand and lock down your real estate. And once you lock down that real estate, as we build our marketplace in certain areas, that land becomes exponentially more valuable. New York is a perfect example of that. We start it in fuel. We have, a ton of fuel retailers, 30,000 fuel retailers plus across the nation, the largest network in the nation. But New York, this, not as many gas stations because not as many people driving. So we're going back and we're putting restaurants on. We will have a grocery partner. And so that marketplace will build and that, 1, 2 transactions per day will eventually elevate to hopefully something much greater, just like we did in St. Louis for Schnucks.
So I have two other questions,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry. So then, as part of the pitch today, there's availability for a food retailer to jump into, call it the Metro New York space.
100%.
Okay. And last question is, so we see the growth and we see where the sales lifts are. You didn't talk about how do you make your money. So what does that look like from a cost? I'm assuming that if we're the targeted retailer, we measure the lift through your app, you come up with the sales, and then what does that cost look like? Just so, I could walk away saying this is reasonable and recommend it to somebody else in our company.
Yep, totally. First of all, let's start here. There is absolutely no cost to join the platform. There is no monthly cost. There is no setup fee. Becoming a member, yes, you sign a contract, but there are no costs associated with joining. The cost, the way we make our money is we share an incremental profit. So said another way, if we bring a bunch of customers on and they start to spend more money, then we will take a share of that incremental profit that those customers are driving. And if you really drill down to the customer specifically, if there's a customer that we're sending a promotion to and they're not spending more money than expected, then we actually like lose money. Our incentives are radically aligned in how we make money because we want to increase that profit, that incremental profit as much as possible because we split that. But at the end of the day, it's a profit share on the incremental profit.
Got the methodology. Just one other question because, we're dealing with
Yeah,
independence here. So is there transparency necessary in order to equate gross profit, net profit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Is that part of what the model requires to get you to how you share the money?
100%.
Okay.
Couple of things. First of all, like the data is our partners. We just use the data. We don't sell it. We don't do anything with it. We just literally ingest it so that we can do a couple of things. First of all, we can understand what a particular consumer's previous history with the retailer is, so that we can understand what we need to do to incentivize them and remove that friction to get them to come in either for the first time or more often into our retail partner stores. Um, with all that, and based on how we measure incrementality, like that data all in is fully yours. So like you can suss that out as well. We have dashboards. We have been audited and put through the full-on microscope with a lot of our very large partners, think like Shell, Exxon, Schnucks, for example. But yes, like there is total transparency.
Good. Sorry, I'm done. Thank you.
No, those are great questions. And happy to find time. I know I've been speaking to a couple of people on your team.
Oh, good. You know what? So I texted somebody and now I'm going to inquire. So
Yep.
Great questions. Thank you, Joe. This is Donna. I'm with the Crossmark organization. Can you give an idea of the types of offers that Schnucks was using to generate these results?
Yep. So all the offers are dynamic and they're generated in real time at a one-to-one basis. So to contextualize that, if all of us on this call right now were sitting in a room in St. Louis, let's say, and we pulled our upside up and we looked at our phone, we would very likely have all very different offers. Donna, maybe for example, you've lived in St. Louis for many years, you're a shopper at Schnucks, and so your offer might be like 1%, right? We're just trying to see if we can get you to go in and spend a little bit more money at the Schnucks, increase your basket size, put that extra item into your basket. Me, on the other hand, let's say that like I'm relatively new or I'm shopping at one of the competitors and I rarely shop at Schnucks for whatever reason. Maybe that's because the competitor is in between my office space and home or where I drop the kids off. Whereas the Schnucks isn't. It's a little bit out of my way. So I will likely see a slightly larger offer. Over time, that offer across the board goes down. So again, like everything is dynamic. It's not something that is set because again, like our incentives are radically aligned. I don't want to give someone that is a really good customer and already coming into Schnucks and spending most of their money at Schnucks a discount when they were going to do that anyways. I want to go focus on those customers that aren't quite as loyal. On average, I believe our grocery, like across the board for Schnucks, I believe it's somewhere in like the 4.5 to 5% range. But again, that goes down over time because as we train customers, they continue to come in and come in more often to our retail partners.
So, who is responsible for setting up the details behind the scene on who is getting what offers and connecting people to their spending habits? Is that a service you provide, or is that something the retailer has to work on?
It's something we do on our end. There's a couple of ways that we do that. We do it through, we can do it through credit card processors. So we have strategic partnerships with like Fiserv, WorldPay, and literally like with a one-page document, we can get access to all that data. We look back 12 months on an ongoing basis, and it's all anonymized. We don't know John from Simon, from Laura, from Donna. We take in no personally identifiable information. The other way that we do that is we can do it through, depending on the POS system, we can do it through the POS system, we can do it through direct data feeds, but there's a whole bunch of different ways that we do that. But once the data starts streaming in, we start to build those offers in real time.
And are those all generic basket offers, or is there the ability to have partnerships where you're saying, where say you're offering specific products and partnering with CPG companies?
I figured you might ask me that question.
You did.
Everything we do is at the basket level right now. We have some levers that we can pull to send people to certain areas of the store. So like, fresh versus, or fresh versus like center of store. But I think one notable thing is we have, well, a couple of things. First of all, like that gross margin that we operate off of, everything work is within the bounds of gross margin. That is owned by our retail partner. They dictate that. And over time, we do audits in partnership with them to ensure that that is still accurate. One aspect of that audit is we actually look to make sure that the customer isn't coming in and only buying soft drinks, right? Because the margin isn't as high. And what we have found time and time again, and we actually look at this across all of our grocery partners as well, because we get all of their data, we look at the upside customer and we look at the non-upside customer, and we see that the basket is composed virtually the same at the category level. Right now, we are very delicately thinking about how an item level integration would work and look. One of the things that we want to make sure we do is again, we're retailer first. So everything we do revolves around the retailer. So like with retail media networks and whatnot starting to become a very, very important aspect of some of our retailers' businesses, it's how can we in a future state, how would we be able to drive value to their retail media network? So there is a future state that we're contemplating, but right now, it is all basket level.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Anything else?
All right, if there's no more questions, thank you, Simon, and thank you, Joe and Donna, for your questions and for a good conversation. To those that are watching after the fact, if any of you want to connect with Simon, you can reach out to us, and we're happy to help facilitate that. We hope that this was informative and works out for everybody that's interested in this. Upside, again, you're a great member. We're happy to have you, and Joe and Donna and Matt and folks, thank you for your participation and being here today. It helps for a good presentation and good discussion. So thank you all. And don't hesitate to reach out. We'll help you guys connect.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
We
man.
appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.